Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dan Wright, Sangamon County State's Attorney. Thank you all for joining us. This morning, Sangamon County Grand Jury returned a 6-count indictment against Shane J. Woods, date of birth January 16th, 1978, of Auburn, Illinois. The 6-count indictment arises from a traffic collision on Interstate 55 on November 8th of this year that resulted in the death of a young woman from Skokie, Illinois, named Lauren Wegner, and 2 individuals in a separate vehicle from Granite City, Illinois. And as a result of Mr. Woods' conduct in relation to that incident, the grand jury returned a 6-count indictment alleging the following offenses. Count 1 alleges the offense of first-degree murder. Count 2 alleges the offense of aggravated driving under the influence involving death. Likewise, count 3 alleges aggravated driving under the influence involving death. Count 4 alleges the offense of aggravated driving under the influence involving great bodily harm. Likewise, count 5 alleges aggravated driving under the influence involving great bodily harm. And finally, count 6 alleges the offense of aggravated fleeing and eluding a peace officer, in that Mr. Woods is alleged to have fled from a DeVernon Police Department officer while that officer was engaged in a traffic stop. Mr. Woods is alleged to have then drove his vehicle onto Interstate 55, traveling northbound against southbound oncoming traffic, and shortly thereafter struck Ms. Wegner's vehicle and the vehicle of the 2 other victims, and a semi-tractor trailer was struck by debris from the incident. Ms. Wegner passed on scene. The other victims were taken to the hospital where they've received treatment and have been released. Mr. Woods was taken to Memorial Medical Center where he received treatment and was released on November 11th, at which time he was booked into the Sangamon County Jail. On the charges that I just mentioned, with the exception of the first-degree murder charge, he was arrested on the charges for which he has been indicted, with the exception of first-degree murder, but he was arrested before on reckless homicide. And the reason for that is at that time, the Illinois State Police had not completed their investigation. And over the course of the subsequent days after this incident, the Illinois State Police completed a very thorough and comprehensive investigation, not only including the scene, but interviews of various individuals that had information relevant to this incident. The information that is contained in our petition to deny bail, which I'm happy to answer questions about later, sets out a little bit of the information that led to the filing of a first-degree murder charge rather than reckless homicide. And the reason for that charge rather than reckless homicide is that the Illinois State Police investigation yielded information regarding statements that the defendant is alleged to have made both before and after this incident, which we allege reflected his mental state that elevated the circumstances to the charge of first-degree murder. Mr. Woods' bond was set in the amount of $2 million the day after he was booked into the Sangamon County Jail. It remains at $2 million. That bond was set before he was indicted and before he had been charged and indicted with the count of first-degree murder. So as a result of the filing of the first-degree murder charge and due to the surrounding circumstances, I filed a petition to deny bail, which has been filed, and we're going to ask the court to take that up tomorrow morning at 11 when Mr. Woods is arraigned on the indictment. So his bond remains at $2 million, but we are seeking a denial of bail pending trial in this case. Mr. Woods faces potential penalties on the first-degree murder charge from 20 to 60 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. The two aggravated DUI involving death charges bring potential penalties of between 3 to 14 years at 85%. The first-degree murder penalties would be served at 100%. Aggravated DUI involving great bodily harm is a Class 4 felony with a special sentencing range of between 1 and 12 years to be served at 85%. And the aggravated fleeing and eluding charge, a Class 4 felony with a standard term of 1 to 3 years, served at 50%. Under Illinois law, it will be our position, should Mr. Woods be convicted, it'll be our position at sentencing that any sentence on the first-degree murder charge would be consecutive to any other charges of which he is convicted. So that would mean you would serve one sentence and then the other, and that they wouldn't run concurrently. That will be our position should he be convicted. That'll be up to the judge to make that final call in terms of whether those terms would be consecutive or concurrent. Does anyone have any other questions? Before I turn it over to questions, I should announce the folks that have joined me at this press conference today. I'm really pleased to have Sheriff Jack Campbell, the Sangamon County Sheriff, as well as two individuals that represent two different agencies that provide community mental health services throughout the state of Illinois and locally. And very honored to have Ms. Leanne Reinert, who is Deputy Director for Policy and Planning with the Illinois Department of Human Services, Division of Mental Health. She's going to talk a little bit about services provided by IDHS specifically, and including other things, but the 988 mental health crisis line, and also Cassie, I'm sorry, what's your last name?
Delaney, Cassie Delaney.
Cassie Delaney from Memorial Behavioral Health, who will also be talking about some local mental health services that are provided by MBH. Turn it over to Ms. Reinert, and then we'll take questions after Ms. Delaney speaks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Deputy Director Leanne Reinert with the Illinois Department of Human Services, Division of Mental Health. I've been asked to share some information on an important resource available to anyone in Illinois, and in fact anyone across the nation, as well as the territories of the United States. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline provides immediate access to trained call takers 24/7, 365 for anyone experiencing suicidal thoughts or other types of mental health or substance use crises. 988 is available by phone, by text, or by chat to individuals experiencing these crises, as well as their families, friends, and other individuals who wish to support them. There are 6 call centers in the state of Illinois that operate and are ready to help at any time. The majority of the time, the discussion that happens between the individual and the call taker resolves the crisis by phone without need for any further intervention. It is enough to provide support and hope to the individual to come up with a plan for safety and to, again, resolve the crisis. However, call takers also have at their fingertips resources for individuals that need more support, whether that be someone to come to them to assist them through the crisis or assist them in getting to a place of safety. It is important to know that 988 has existed since 2005 and was previously known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Recently, it expanded and is being advertised broadly to include other types of mental health and substance use crises. And in the state of Illinois, we have invested more than $11 million into our call centers to ensure that we have the capacity to respond to anyone in Illinois that calls at any time. And if the call center that serves a particular area is not immediately available, if all of their call takers are involved in other calls, then there is a redundant backup system so that individuals still get their call answered. The average response rate for our largest call center is 20 seconds or less for their call to be answered. And so we think it's very important that those of you who have the ability, spread the word about 988 because it can save lives, it offers hope and access to services. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Director Reiner, for being here and for those words about mental health resources through the Department of Human Services and as she indicated, available throughout the country. I'd like to have Cassie Delaney from Memorial Behavioral Health come up and say a few words about their services.
Thank you. My name is Cassie Delaney. I'm the Project Director, Crisis System of Care with Memorial Behavioral Health. Over this last year, we've seen the needs for mental health services, specifically crisis services, increase. We've met this need by launching our mobile crisis response service. This is meeting our crisis needs in the community. We respond to homes, to schools, shelters, anywhere someone is experiencing a mental health crisis. We have staff available 24/7, 365 to provide that crisis service where they are located. Our number is available for anyone who has a need. If it's a family member or the person who's experiencing the crisis, we want to get that individual connected to the services they need. To get a hold of our mobile crisis response team, you can call them directly at 217-788-7070. This is also included with a variety of other services, including walk-in and services, including our living room, which is a peer-ran model, has lived experience of those who've gone through their own mental health challenges and been able to help other individuals. I would like to say there is help out there, and sometimes a family member, a friend, someone can bring up this conversation and they can help get that person connected and get the supports that they need. If you're struggling with mental health, you are not alone. There is help out there, and we would love to be able to provide that service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Delaney. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Dan, you had mentioned that this gentleman had said some things, or there was things that he was possibly going through. Can you maybe describe a little bit of what he had said, or what you guys, or what the state police had found to bring mental health facilitators here today?
Well, the documentation that is publicly available, specifically the 6-count indictment and also our petition to deny bail, that has attached to it the probable cause and field booking statement that was filed upon his booking into the Sangamon County Jail. And without getting into specifics, the investigation yielded information that suggested that Mr. Woods intended to enter upon I-55 and strike another vehicle.
Mr. Wright, can you talk about situation with the Divernon police specifically? He was detained or stopped at that point. Can you pick it up from there and what happened?
Sure. According to the Divernon Police Department, Mr. Woods was pulled over for a violation of the Illinois Vehicle Code, specifically speeding. And the Divernon Police Department engaged with him, and then the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department arrived and spoke to the Divernon police officer, and when they were returning to the vehicle to re-engage with him, at that time he fled the scene in his vehicle.
Was it at that time that he mentioned suicide specifically?
And I can't get into the specifics of what he said and exactly when he said those things, but to maintain the integrity of the prosecution and to respect Mr. Woods' rights, I won't be answering anything further specifically about the specifics of his statement. Any other questions?
Could you go over the math again for how long he would serve if he's convicted?
Sure. The most serious count, of course, is first-degree murder, and that carries a penalty of between 20 and 60 years. If he's convicted of all of the counts in this case, as I said, our position would be that that the first-degree murder sentence would be served consecutively to the sentence in respect to the other counts, which would be concurrent to each other, would be our legal position. And so he would be facing between 20 to 60 on the murder, and then the other most serious charge is aggravated DUI involving death, which would, well, actually that would merge into the murder because that involves the same victim. But the potential consecutive charge would be aggravated DUI, great bodily harm, so anywhere from 1 to 12 years at 85%. Other questions?
Have you been in contact, Mr. Rye, with the federal authorities about his sentencing in January?
I'm aware of that matter and have been in contact with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, but can't comment on anything related to their case. All right, thank you for coming today.